again, thank you for the invitations. I will talk about digital transformation and innovation, and of course with AI. I come from the University of Minho, in which I work inside the research center algorithm. I'm professor at Department of Informatics, and my group is the EUbyLab, the Synthetic Intelligent Lab. But it is a group that works on AI in the general world. Just to put in context, we are living in the context of a COVID-19 disease. Remember the population in December 2019, it was the identification of the pandemic in China, and the declaration of the global pandemic occurred in 11 March 2020. Of course, the first data, the identification, we are not too sure, December 19, but it occurred somewhere between November and December. And the world changed rapidly and become as a lockdown in everywhere. This image is from my city. I live in the capital, in the first capital of Portugal, Guimarães, and it represents something very unusual. Nobody was in the center of the city during the day after the 12th of March. It was very extraordinary. If you had been living in a cave since last year, probably you know and were now suddenly rejoining our society. Much about this coronavirus thinking will please you. Include the closed bars, sparsely stocked store and desert landmarks. Adding to your confusion will be occasional keep sign telling you for someone unknown reason to stay at home and observe something called social distancing. It was very unusual. After the declaration of the pandemic, the world changed so quickly. And even the most, I think one of the most interesting characteristics of the human being is the way they interact with others was stopped immediately. When I try to understand what's happening around the world, usually I'm trying to read one of the most extraordinary magazines that we have in the world. Probably New York is one of them. And I would like to observe one of the three last covers that we can find from New York. The first one, and observe through these windows, the window of the New Yorker, three different aspects of our life: mobility, economy, and social interaction. The first one is a well-known place, the Grand Central Terminal in New York. Usually we observe from the movies, from the Hollywood movies, there are plenty of persons around this terminal, and we observe just one man cleaning the Grand Terminal. So mobility is also changed dramatically during the last few months. The second cover is also very interesting. Is a very beautiful cover, by the way, from April 13, and you represent the change, the dramatic change that the economy has suffered during this period. You see in the darkness of the night a courier, probably, and he will deliver the orders of people who did not leave their home. That's extreme, very strange. In the city, I remember that never sleep, and you see just one person delivering something. So even in economy, the world had changed dramatically, and and you don't see digital around this, but of course, behind this process, there are a very quickly and rapid digital transformation. The third one is very important for me. My wife is working the front line. She's a nurse. She is in the front line of COVID. And during the last few weeks, we have been talk between me and my sons with my wife, most of the time using this new program, this new object of social interaction, digital, okay? So a new natural way to communicate and interact is now the norm, the digital way. Now I would like, this was the motivation, the introduction, the put in context. Now I would like to observe this phenomenon from the side of AI. This is a very common technique to observe documents, is a cloud of words. Can someone tell me which document is behind this world of cloud? Can you guess which one? It's very easy, but it's at the same time very interesting, I think. Do you know, Marcos? I'm sorry, you are the only one I know, so I can ask you. Do you know which document is represented by this? It's one of the most.
I was turning on okay. Not really, Paulo.
Alice in the Wonderland. Is it?
Alice Adventures in the Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. It was one of
I have gaps in my culture.
Yeah. This one is very interesting. One of the most interesting books that from all times. And if you look at all the documents, represent all the documents, you will see that it is interesting to see the words that occur most of the time: thunk, curiously, and little, and say little. Okay, okay, it's just a window that AI opened through a document, and in this case, it's just a stupid statically analysis that give you the word more important in the document. Of course, probably the word that occur more in the document is Alice. Second example. Can you guess which piece is the next? Rui, by the way, you have the micro open. Can you give it a guess, please?
I think that is C.
Very well. Yes, it is. And why?
It's difficult to explain.
No, it's very easy. You guess so quickly.
Because I follow the other examples and.
So you observe that there is in all of them, in these two, you are observing my mouse, yes? Okay.
Yeah.
So you note that there is always someone with the middle very open, okay? This one and this one, okay? So it is the one that is here, of course, okay? But if you that's the human reasoning and perception that work. For a computer, it can use that kind of pattern, but the true pattern that occur in this exam is only one of these line is moving. If you observe from here, this line is moving. From here, from this image, the one that moves is this one for here, and in all of them, just one line is moving. Okay, so from this exam, with a certain degree of difficulty, you can find a pattern, something occur repeatedly. Okay, second example, if you don't mind. This one is more difficult to guess, which is the next figure, I think. Okay, it's not important which one it is, but we are observing an example of from here, from the first one was at just one degree of movement. This one have two degrees. So just with the double of the degree of movement, you will see that something is changing dramatically. You know what it is complexity. The complexity behind this problem is completely different from the previous one. The previous one was very easy to understand for human because it was complexity 1. This one had complexity 2 and become very much more difficult for us. Okay, so this is an example of what? Of how AI can help us. Can help us to solve one of the most important problem of the modern times: complexity. Why complexity? Because we have a lot of data, and it is too much data for us. We don't have the necessary skills to can read at the same time all the data. So AI will be a kind of just like the binoculars or a telescope that, or a microscope that help us to see far or closer. In this case, will be AI help us to solve the problems of complexity. That's why AI is so important nowadays, okay? To help us to see through complexity and to find the pattern, the one that solves this problem, okay? A first definition when we talk about AI is important to mention John McCarthy. It was a professor in Stanford, and he gave the name to AI in 1955. In 1956 was the first Congress, the first symposium of AI in Dartmouth College, but the name was born in 1955. And John McCarthy mentioned a very interesting definition. He said that AI is in 2007, but the first definition was also very similar to this one. He mentioned that AI is a science that studies intelligence, but at the same time, he mentioned that AI is an engineer of making intelligent computer programs, okay? In this case, he mentioned intelligent computers program because he wants to separate software from hardware. But we can have the same, we can have intelligence with the body, normally a robot, of course, okay? But it is important for John McCarthy, software could be intelligent, and we can have intelligence without a body. That's something very interesting because humans we cannot have intelligence without our body. We are, the intelligence make part of our body, okay? We cannot separate it, okay? And at the same time, John McCarthy mentioned something also very interesting for me. AI does not confine to methods that are biological observable. That means that also the other way to solve problems, the social approach, the one that are based, for example, in social interaction, are also important for us. Not just the examples of intelligence that comes from the biological approach. Okay. That's also important, but because if you remember how AI born with the one main idea of Martin Minsky from MIT labs that developed the first neural network that in our days is so popular with deep learning. Okay, in neural net was based on the idea of the simulation of the brain of human. But John McCarthy just from the beginning think this is an approach, okay, but there are different approach to intelligence that open a large window to AI. The most probably from until 2024, it was the highest exponent of AI. This example, we are looking at to IBM Deep Blue, the very famous software that win against the master of chess, Garry Kasparov. Okay, and this one represents an AI based on the declaration of rules. Basically, it was a system that which we give to the system the rules, all the knowledge that we have from a certain context. In this case, how to win someone to play chess. And we hope at the end that the system, the software, could win the other guys, and he win because he was faster than the other to do calculation operation. Okay, this is the maximum, the highest exponent of this, what we call the classical AI, the symbolic approach of AI. This is very interesting because all the action that we have in this system, we can explain. There are interpretation. We can interpret all the action and they do, and we can prove why they do. Okay, that's an approach to intelligence. Okay, but not everything that we do have an explanation. Sometimes we do that by instinct, for example. Okay, so we will see the other approach. Of course, most of our robots, for example, for the moment, and you will see the Google autonomous car, the robots that we are using in the industry, the very famous robot from Hanson Robotics, and the less robot, but very human, created by my colleague Hiroshi Ishiguro from the Osaka Institute of Technology in Japan. I think you are able to note which one is the true guy. But I think you understand this one is the real Japanese. My dear friend from Japan, of course, it's more or less easy to do a robot similar to a Japanese because he don't move like the Latins, as you know. So he's a calm person. But and by the way, if he was giving this talk or this lecture, probably will not come to Portugal or even to this session. He will send his robot giving the presentation for us. Okay. The new approach that born in 2025 with deep learning, with DeepMind, was a different one, was a different approach, an approach based in the large amount of data that comes with internet, and the high capacity of calculation comes with high performance computing. And with this, we open a new windows in which predictions, classifications, and creativity becomes the biggest words that we can use. Creativity, why? This is not totally creativity, by the way, but creativity in the sense that if you observe very well, for example, a famous painter like Van Gogh, you could understand there is a pattern, something that defines a pattern in which Van Gogh always used to paint. Okay, it's a style, if you want, and style becomes as a kind of pattern that he repeats constantly in different paintings. Okay, so if you repeat this style, we can also create other ones similar to him using his style and probably the newest paint. Okay, so in the certain way we can also have creativity now. Okay, but we will talk about that later on. Okay, just a timeline of AI. Everyone expects typically that we give a timeline. Everything born with Turing. Turing is, of course, the highest name in AI. And that's why our Nobel Prize is the Turing Award, by the way. But AI born in 1955, but nothing very important occurred until, in my humble opinion, 1997. With Deep Blue, which the highest exponent of the symbolic AI. And after that, we will have, for example, the first robots, the IBO, and also the first domestic application of AI, well known in all the house in the United States, the autonomous robotics vacuums, for example, the Roomba, well known. And also, the first approach to the digital assistant, the Siri, born in 2011. Watson, for example, the well-known example also in 1911. This one is more is well known due to the skills in natural language processing, and Eugene, one of the first chatbot. But after 27, born a new AI with the DeepMind and the other games that we win with AlphaGo. We will talk about that later on. So for me, there was 3 important dates: Turing, Deep Blue in 1997, and in 27 the AlphaGo moment. One of the things that changed, if you look very well, it's that in the past, during the industrial revolution, everything was electrified. We will now cognitive everything. We will give cognitive power, the capacity to decide, the capacity to act independently, autonomously, of course, in a certain context. And this is important because we give cognitive power to the object of the everyday life. We are living new times. Most our action generate data. Okay, data is the oil of our revolution. If you look at, well, most of your interaction with your device, with your smartphones, are collecting data. Okay, so yeah, you're all the time monitored. We are monitorized. Everyone know, for example, where we are because we are connected to a GSM antenna. We are connected to a Wi-Fi. We have our GPS always connected. So all of these data are sending to somewhere, and we are collecting data. Second example is, of course, most of our interaction with social networks are collecting data. They know better than us sometimes. We are even suffering a kind of overload information related to this kind of huge amount of information. And we don't have the skills, the ability to manipulate, to manage all these data. So the first thing that changed also recently was that, of course, there were things that in the past we are not able to do, but now we can do because we have a large scale, the large scale of data. Okay, so this new AI was born and based on 2 things: data and power. Data because we have a huge amount of data, and power because we now have the power to process all this data. Okay, and so born a new way to observe computer science, if you want. In the old times, the ones that my colleagues from the other discipline teach their students, we learned that computer science was something like that. We give an input, we build a program, and we know what output, and we can expect an output. And when this output not corresponding, always do bugs from Microsoft, if you remember well, and it was a mistake, of course. Okay, so this one is what? Is the one that IBM Deep Blue use. You give the input, you give the knowledge, represented by the program, and you can be sure that if you put 1, if you have 1 plus 1, you will have the result of 2, because this is as the machine was built. Okay, but now nowadays we are creating a new paradigm, a new approach. No, we are not anymore creating programs, but we want to create models. Model is a kind of approach, something that will simulate the behavior behind what? Behind the data. Okay, if you know which input you have and you have the result of this input, you can create a model that will simulate this. If you want, you will find the pattern, okay, behind this data. And at the end, this model represents what? Represent the knowledge, okay? The knowledge that in the past we put where? We trying to define the program. So if you think a little, you will see that in this new approach, when we create the model, what novel skills of the human we are creating? Learning. The system is learning, okay? Creating this model, we are learning knowledge, because knowledge is something that we repeat constantly in the different contexts, okay? And with this, we open AI. We comes from normally in the past, we have 2 or 3 fields of application, the expert systems, like the Deep Blue, of course, it's a huge expert system, but it was a very good example of an expert system, and some applications in robotics. And now we open the fields. We have now machine learning with the fantastic area of deep learning, in which we are open the vision, the speech recognition, etc., etc. We have now, as you can see also in this situation, in this context of the pandemic, the predictive analytics that are a new fields on AI. And of course, the huge progress that we have been achieved in the last few years in natural language processing that give us the opportunity to have now chatbots or even digital assistants that can speak with us, okay? And we could do a certain degree of conversation very interesting with you, okay? And of course, in vision. Vision, why vision? Because they learn from deep learning, and they have now the tools, the algorithms that can give to the skills to a program, to a robot if you want, but namely to a program to see better than a human. Because if you remember, there is a very famous example in which a system of vision recognition can find a person in the concert, for example, with more than 1,000 person there, something that a human cannot do, okay? Okay, when we talk about machine learning, just a few examples, we are talking about classic learning. That means that we can have systems that learn as the human with the input and the output, okay? Like a case-based reasoning, learning by experience, but also like humans, you can observe an amount of data with no supervising learning techniques, just observing the data and say, oh, there is some groups here, clustering. The same technique that in marketing a long time ago, the company can divide their customer, sharing certain features, okay? But even during the last few years, we are learning in the different way. When one is the reinforced learning, okay? When we don't have data, we just know what we can do. We can reinforce the learning using these techniques to help us to find and to explore a new space, okay? And the fourth approach is the one that we'll talk later on, the deep learning approach, the one that Google and DeepMind namely had been, and Facebook, sorry, as are now using for learning. But this one have a problem, because they are different from this one. In these 2 previous approach, you can explain, you can interpret the result, because you are in control. In this one, you don't control nothing. You just know that you have identified something, but you cannot explain why. Because if you try to understand why, you will see that he'll tell you, because 2 plus 2 is 4 or 3.9, and nothing more than that. But there is something extraordinary. The knowledge obtained from this approach works. We cannot explain, but it works very well. We cannot explain in the way that human can understand, of course, in a normal human. Okay. Okay. Finish the approach of the AI. We will see in this moment what new application of AI are appearing. Most of the warnings, the systems of warning and alert that you see recently appear comes from AI. This one, for example, is a software that analyzes the outbreak of risk of safeguard lives by mitigating the exposure to infection disease. Okay. The other one, the tracking and prediction, for example, there are a lot of new softwares that are using to do that. The new dashboard, this one is very famous. You see every day in the news, the John Hopkins, the dashboard in which we have a new way, the data visualization approach in which we have a new way to observe the aggregation of data. And we can now, analyzing the data from different perspectives, new patterns, new things that from in the previous times it was impossible to detect. For example, the new chatbot. Have you seen this one? This one is from Portugal. It is a very good project based on the University of Minho, Porto, and a Portuguese company that developed a chatbot in which people can talk with the chatbot and understand if there are symptoms they have in that moment can or no represent risk in terms of COVID. Probably you have seen this one also in the field of social control. A lot of new exams based on facial recognition and fever detector. 3-4 years ago, it was probably science fiction, but now in nowadays we have a lot of very good examples around the world of this technology applied, based typically on deep learning, etc. A lot of new application of drones and robots to surveillance, for example. In diagnostic, for example, okay, you have also find a new approach. In most of the labs around the world in biomedical field are using AI to try to find if there is a correlation between the data that they have from the pandemic, okay? For example, in research and treatments and cures, there are also a new computational prediction of protein, for example, and structure associate COVID-19. A lot of new work that simplify the work of the research. Why? Because they aggregate the data and simulate the manipulations that they want to do. And another problems and new application that open a huge window for us is, for example, in the field of information, when we search information, when we sharing information and check the information. Okay? We have now systems that can, at the same time that we search information related to a topic, see that information is true, checking with the other fonts and other source of the information. A kind of a way to know if it is a fake news or no. Okay, and we know how important this is for us, namely in the fields of democracy. So the world is still apart, as you know, but what can we expect that from this situation can remain in the future? I believe a new economic framework will appear, a new shape of international trade. I believe the long distance supply chain will change. I believe in the future that the company will not be dependent from a factory anywhere in the world, totally dependent. They want to diversify the risk, and most probably two things that are even more important. We will have an increase of the level of automation and digital economy. Automation can come from more AI, more software that autonomously take a decision, and jobs will come as a service, not more as something for life, okay? In terms of the society, we will, probably it was very strange for the guys from the management and namely for an economy. We cannot have an economy without people, by the way. It's something that probably it is one of the most important conclusions in our days. But at the same time, we will have probably a society with less mobility, and this will have a huge impact in tourism, business, and service. And but we will have probably also a biggest digital society. Telework, we will have a boom. Okay, we are in this moment doing that, and I believe that in the future will even appear more tools for digital collaboration. In terms of education, remote learning and tutoring will be probably the next big things that will occur in terms of the revolution in education. If you see, most of the big cities now are preparing projects in terms of digital academy and things like that, okay? And even the Portuguese university are now open to that. And of course, in the health sector, we are expecting an increased use of technology, telemedicine, and mobile hospital. Okay. Jan LeCun is probably in our times, the John McCarthy of this time. He is the Turing Award of 1918. He was one of the co-founder of DeepMind, and he was the guy behind the technology that are now in our days is the responsible for this hype of AI. He says something that I like very much, because it puts very far from us the scenario of the Terminator that everyone think when they think on AI, and some like Bill Gates, Musk have talking about this scenario so complicated for us. Because he said that intelligence, it was what makes us human, and AI is observed as a kind of extension of this quality. And when you put AI as an extension of intelligence, you put AI in the right context, in the right form, okay? Because I believe in that. AI was in the past important to reduce the human error, but AI will be very important to humanize the system, to do the right digital transformation and the innovation that we expect, okay? And where I can see AI applied, because I believe that the kind of thing that you want to know. I see AI on three different levels, okay? One of them is at the level of the product, okay? You have a product, you need to embed in your existing product service to make them more effective, reliable, even to change their longevity, okay? It's when we talk in the integration of AI in product, we of course, we talk about value creation. We can see AI in the process, of course, automation, for example, the digital monitoring and control, task automation, human-robot collaboration, okay? That's probably industry 4.0, probably, but with and more AI, and we talk about productive improvement, but also at the level of the knowledge, what I call knowledge discovery, to identify insight in the engineering system, for example, emerging product faults, use and perform of their product. And when we talk about that, we talk about efficiency and quality improvement, okay? A few examples of that. I'm sorry, because before that. But why in these three levels is so important, or three different levels is so important to use learning. Why nowadays learn becomes so important? Probably it was important in the past, but of course now we have tools. The tools that give us the opportunity to create systems that learn from data. Okay, and learn autonomously. Okay, that's also very important, because in certain fields of application, the human expertise do not exist. That's important. Okay, there are a lot of areas in industrial and manufacturing control in which we don't have a solid human learning about how we work. In certain places, the humans cannot explain their expertise. For example, I remember always a question that a few years ago, watching a TV program, that there was an interview our Nobel Prize Saramago, and trying to ask him to explain why he write using a certain style, and he was not able to explain why. But this system probably can understand why, not why, but at least the style of he is using, okay, the handwriting. In certain fields that the phenomenon is changing very rapidly, namely in credit scoring, in financial modeling, as we see in our days. In fraud detection, for example, it's quite important to have a system that learns autonomously. In models that need a high level of customized and personalized issues. And of course, when we lead with models are based on huge amount of data, like for example, internet search, anomaly detection, and genomics data. Okay, that's impossible. We don't have the skills to observe, to take into account all the data that we have. A few examples, very interesting, operation automation. For example, this robot is a robot that is capable to navigate in the dynamic space. All the objects can move, can change of location, and the robot can autonomously explore the space. For example, this one is a system that uses the vision recognition to detect difference of colors. Okay. At the level of the clothes, smart clothes, for example, we have this one is a collaboration between Levi's and Google, and this jacket connect to your smartphone via Bluetooth and can give you the possibility to control the smartphone, but at the same time you are also monitoring. You are sending all your information, location to everyone to the cloud. This one is very interesting because it's that use advanced tactile sensor to give you to detect how your foot lands where you are walking or running. Two very interesting application in customer experience and customization. For example, this one is a smart leggings that give you the right measures to solve a problem in electronic commerces. As you know, the problem of when you return your product because you made a mistake with the size, namely the woman usually think that they are using a lower size, and this one we will solve because automatically send the right size to the manufacturer. In the fields of the virtual assistants, there are a lot of different systems. Portugal have one. This one is from Yapmei. If I'm not wrong, can help us to give information about, if I'm not wrong, some financial project that they support. This one is a one to use in e-commerce that give you as a platform for conversational AI. But the main goal and the main objective probably of this talk is talk about innovation. And innovation is something that is to do it better, faster, and probably to be the first to do. Just a few examples, because I believe that to do innovation, it should be creative, okay? And I was searching a few examples of application of AI to arts. Do you know that in 1973, Harold Cohn was the first painter? It was a painter and a professor at California University that have a program, he create a program and collaborate with this program to make pictures autonomously for the kids, okay? So what's happened in 1973? He give to the system rules that define the style of him, how he paint, okay? And the system was able to replicate in new contexts the painter that could be done by Harold Cohn, okay? In 1995, Richard Valens developed a chatbot, Alice, and it was the first artificial linguistic internet computer entity, okay? It was able to talk with others from the web, okay? So as you see, someone that create art, someone that are able to talk, okay? With limitation, of course. But it was the two first example of that. I don't know, this is just a second. Okay, oops, too fast. Sorry, guys. Forgive me. Okay. Okay. Okay, I will stop this. The first example is, as you know, the one that in the game, man against machine, IBM win. This one is an example of robots are dancing. Of course, they are not so clever because they have the same level of intelligence of a robot in the factory, because if you switch off the music, they will continue to dance. But this gives you at least is a demo of the capability of movement of each robot, okay? Again, an important moment was when in the game of man against machine, the Watson, when the system Watson from IBM beat the two best players in the USA program TV Jeopardy, is a question and answering program. And another very interesting tools was the painting tool by Simon Colton, that create a system that based on the college by the painting tool, inspired by news from Afghanistan. So you give to the system a lot of keywords related to a topics, and he is able to collect image that represent the keywords and create something, okay? It was, this one is very interesting because based on the labeling of things, now we can create new piece. I don't know if you know, but in 2007, the first music was created by an AI co-produced, okay? But the instrumentation was composed by AI, and the lyrics and the vocal melody were written by the singer, okay? It was the first commercial product creating art. And in 2 years ago, becomes something that it was not expected to occur so early. But the first AI artwork sales in the Christie auction and becomes the first auction house to offer a work of art created by algorithm. Okay. Two examples of Portugal in which can help us to open the windows of creation that is so important to create and to help us as humans to create innovation. In Portugal, we have Leonel Moura. He have a robotic art, as he called, that are robots that paint for him a long time ago. Okay, as you see, these two paints are basically the robot that paint based on the instruction of Leonel Moura. Another point of view, very interesting, is this one from João Martinho Moura. I recommend to you to visit his website. He's a research and a media artist, and he is not working with AI, but he have a lot of work that trying to see how robot and how AI can imagine humans. That's very interesting, I believe. Another interesting approach are the, based on the development that I tried to offer you during the previous slides, is the one that a lot of journalists are concerned about this, because as you know, AI in the news media is being used in a new way, from speeding up research to accumulating and across referencing data and beyond. It's a kind of automated journalism, or there are other approaches that call it algorithm journalism or robot journalism. But at the end, we have for the first time new articles or new text, if you want, are generated by computer programs. Okay, so this is also something that are open to us, and we can eventually use to do creation. I cannot. I cannot come to a talk and don't present you a few examples of the things that in my lab we have done. The first one was a robot that we are using as a kind of personal trainer. He helps people to do exercise and monitorize the exercise. A second example is we are using in the fields of human-computer interaction. We are trying to understand the pattern of interaction that people have when they use a different device, namely the mouse, the keyboard, touch screens, etc., and trying to understand, to detect a few behaviors. Probably stress is one of them, the one that we have most success, fatigue and attention. Namely, in terms of fatigue, we have now a startup that was recently found by €1 million that use the technology that we developed in our lab to create systems that detect fatigue in online games. Okay. We have also a lot of work in recognition of emotion. That's something very important nowadays, namely in the fields of marketing, to understand the comments that people and the claims, the level of emotion that people have when they write, and we use that in the field that we call sentiment analysis in text. We have also a lot of work in medical imaging. We are creating systems that help the physicians in medical to take decisions. Okay, this one represents a few anomaly detection in the tomography and the other kind of image. But this approach has some risk. Okay. The first one that is the big data. Of course, everything is based on data. So if your data is not, that don't have the quality that we need, it will be a problem, is a key factor of success. The other point, the malicious data is important. One of the last documents produced by the Obama administration was the AI, I don't remember the name, but the AI, what is the name of the document? The AI, oh, I'm sorry, initiative. But inside that document, you will find another point was called by the contra AI. That means that we can inject malicious data in the systems of the other to destroy their system. So as you see, there will be here also some problem. The problem of the quality of the data and the control of the data is crucial in our times. We have a problem of transparency, as I tried to explain you with a few examples, not with definitions, not with other material, but with the examples that I give to you is the black box problem. There are certain approach on AI that are very difficult to explain and to interpret the result, but they work and they work well. And of course, there will be always a problem of misuse in all the technology that we develop. It's something that occurs in all the technology that humans develop. Sometimes people use that technology to create things that at the beginning we are not expecting. One of them is, as you know, the autonomous weapon for humans. Okay? There are new trends on AI. One of them is the confluence with other emerging technology. Blockchain, for example, for commerce is quite interesting. IoT, the Internet of Things, etc. You can see in schools there are emerging a lot of new technology that can be used. The virtual and the intersection with AI and virtual reality, augmented reality will happen during the next few years. There are now also two different approaches to the problems that the use of systems like this one can cause, namely in terms of ethics. One of them is the AI with ethics, and IEEE have an initiative on that. And they talk about transparency, that they find rules for embedding values into AI applications. But as you know, this is the old approach. How? Because when we embedding values, we are giving the knowledge to the system, but the problem is, who is the person in charge to do that? Which value do we will use? Your values, my values, or the values of the ONU, something like that? We will never know. Probably we will never have a common base to do that. Of course, some of you can remember the laws of robotics of Isaac Asimov, but there are very few rules. And it's not so easy sometimes in certain contexts to define the right values, the values that everyone will accept. There is another approach, the wise AI, the one that I defined, is the one that tries to create systems that observe the way that humans are living and the behaviors of humans, and try to extract from that data the value of their behaviors, okay? And we, of course, can create systems that detect anomaly, but detection of anomaly sometimes is very complicated. Because as an anomaly today, but because through the knowledge that we have today is an anomaly, but tomorrow it's just a new way to do something. It's complicated to classify that. And there are a lot of other problems associated with AI, the fairness, the governance, and the policy. I see that in the internet. I'm finished. I see this is fantastic. One of the most characteristics of human is the capacity of adaptation, and I believe that that can be very useful in the future. Okay, and adaptation, and by the way, the capacity to generate diversity also. Yuval Noah Harari talked about the day after tomorrow. I don't know if you remember, they have a few years ago, they have a movie that called The Day After Tomorrow, but it talk about the choice that we make that can define our future, and it is very important to think about that. And I want to finish with the same approach that I do at the beginning, again with the colors of New York. Okay, the first one represents the class of the future. Probably during the next 1-2 years, we will have class with a different shape. This cover is very interesting because present how humans are creative and the way that they can now interact using different forms. And this one is very beautiful, but is represent the colors of tanks. Okay, but this one is oldest. You have already 3 years. Is the new age that we are creating using these systems. Of course, as I say, nothing is good and bad at the same time, but there are some aspects that we need to take in account, okay? Because humanity can suffer, okay, and or at least can change the shape of as we see. I don't know if you know this cartoon. Doraemon is. I have young kids, and so a few years ago I was watching in TV all the time. This Doraemon is a cartoon that comes from the future to help people in the present to solve the problems. But the problem at the end, he never fixed what is wrong. He creates even more problems. So be careful about the choice that we make, because we don't have a Doraemon to help us. And probably when it comes to the present, it will be too late. Okay, thank you.